Before we get into the video, remember to comment, like, subscribe and turn on notifications. r/entitled parents. I don't care if the house is going to foreclosure. I'm getting internet and you need to help set up my Chromecast. Post by u/Davisk94. Sorry for the long story, but I want to make some details clear as possible. This took place a year ago, and the story came to mind since my birthday is this week, and this story took place the day of my birthday. The entitled parent in this story is actually my own father. Some backstory: I live with my mom, my dad, Ed, and my autistic older brother. Ed has a habit of doing whatever he wanted, being irresponsible, and not taking responsibility for any of his actions, and always tries to put it onto other people. My mom was close to her breaking point, and her only solace was that I was there to support her. I love my mother, and she's always been there when I needed her, and has saved my ass more times than I can count, so it sucks when I see her like this. Ed decided without telling my mom to take her car in to get fixed. The problem with that was, it wasn't even broken, and my mom had a meeting the next day for my brother. If she missed that meeting, we could lose some of the funding that we get for him. When she informed Ed about this, he tried to spin the blame on her, and told her that he wouldn't have done that if she had told him. But the thing is, she did, multiple times, and he's ignoring the fact that he took her car without her permission. He actually believes that since he's her husband, he can just take/use her things. He does the same thing with me too, and even took money out of my bank account on more than one occasion some years ago since I was a student and shared the account with him. I found that out the day I was buying textbooks for school, and the money I had saved up was gone. He even did the same thing to my other older brother when he was student teaching, and not only took money, but it was $900 he took without permission, saying it was for bills, neglecting to even tell him until after the money was spent. He didn't pay that money back until many years later when my mom finally found out and chewed his ass for it, but I'm getting off track. My mom finally reached her breaking point, and told him he needs to move out, and move out ASAP. He had already called my nana, Ed's mom, and she agreed that she would take him in if it ever came to that. I felt really bad for nana, because she was the sweetest woman, and I knew the only reason she was taking him in was because my grandfather had actually passed just a year sooner and was lonely. So, my dad moved out, and my mom was the happiest she was in years. She was able to sleep soundly, she was way less stressed, and the house was actually looking presentable. Side note, Ed was a pig, and he would even throw banana peels on the floor because he knew somebody would pick them up later, and I found out from my aunt that he told them that we, his sons, were responsible for it. Ed stayed with my nana for a few months, and her house was noticeably messier with him there. He would leave food out, throw garbage on the floor, etc. I felt so bad that nana was putting up with his crap, but she insisted that it was worth it to have the company. I realized then that I really needed to visit her more often and decided to take her out to lunch when my semester was over. During one of my visits during school, nana was visibly ill, and she said that she just had a stomach virus, and that she was fine. I spoke with her for a bit, and went to give her a hug, but she told me that she didn't want me to get sick and declined the hug. I told her, "Don't worry nana, I'll give you a bigger hug the next time I see you." My aunt visited about a week later, and noticed she wasn't getting any better, and forced her to go to the hospital. It turns out, it wasn't a stomach virus, and she was suffering from cirrhosis of the liver. For those who don't know, cirrhosis is a late stage of liver scarring. Turns out, ever since my grandfather passed, my nana had been coping with large amounts of wine. She went through 2 36-ounce bottles of wine in just a few days after his passing. I had no idea this was all going on and beat myself up over not visiting as often as I should have. She passed away in the hospital before I was able to visit her, and that extra big hug I promised her never came. I took a day off from school and came home to see my family. Everybody was mourning, except for Ed, being the unfeeling man he was. He saw showing sadness as a sign of weakness, and never did so, even at his own mother's funeral. Nana's house was going to foreclosure, which meant Ed couldn't stay there anymore. We really didn't want him back, but he had nowhere else to go since our other family members didn't like him either, so we had no choice but to let him move out. Oh well, I guess it was nice while it lasted. However, my mom told him that the only way she was taking him back is if he refurbishes the basement and stays there. He agrees to this, since he just got a payout from Nana's insurance, for about $7,000, and said he would use that money. However, as I'm sure some of you figured out from his shenanigans of stealing money from me and my brother, Ed is very bad with money. We grew up not having a whole lot, and I just figured that Ed didn't make a whole lot. My mom couldn't work, since she had a son with autism. She had to be around for him 24/7, since he wasn't exactly stable. It turns out, my dad was making over $70K each year with the 2 jobs he worked. However, we were living like he was making 1/3 of that. He saved none of it, and when he got laid off back in 2007, we were instantly living borderline poverty. We never learned where that money he was making was going, since it always seemed like he didn't have anything whenever we wanted anything. Anyways, when he got that $7,000, he was acting like he was Mr. Moneybags himself. He was constantly eating out, buying himself nice things, etc. He was told by my aunt, who was in charge of Nana's house at the time, that my dad needed to move out in by June. He saw that as I can stay in June and move out in July. He was offered to keep her TV and internet subscriptions, provided he pays for them himself, but he declines. He was to spend this time clearing out the basement and get it ready for him to move back in. However, he tells us that he's been very busy with his service calls. My dad's basically a freelance appliance repairman. On the 6th of June, 2018, I get a text from Verizon saying that we had 10% of data remaining, which I thought was impossible since we had 18 gigabytes that month of data for the family. It turns out, Ed has been using our data to watch Netflix on his phone. He's been telling us that he's been busy with his service calls, and that he didn't have time to clean out the basement, but he's been watching Netflix on his phone the entire time. I asked him to stop, because we are going to be charged extra for any data that goes over the cap. Ed says, "Oh, I have the money. I'll take care of any charges." I did the math, saw how much data he used since the beginning of the month, and how much the extra charges were, and told him that he would easily be spending close to $500 in addition to our regular phone bill. Ed said, "Oh, that's fine." I told him that is certainly not fine, and then he says, "Okay, we'll change our plan to unlimited then." I told him we can't afford unlimited, and that would be a waste of time since he was supposed to move back in within the next few weeks, and he'd be using Wi-Fi instead. He tells me to just look up how much it is, and then hangs up. Later that day, I call up Verizon, and instead of inquiring about the unlimited plans, I requested that once we cap our data, to have it changed to 2G speeds instead. Ed didn't like this, but unfortunately for him, he doesn't know the credentials to our account, so there's nothing he can do about it. However, he decides to just get internet installed at the house instead. I told him he can't do that, the house is going to foreclosure, and that he's not even supposed to be at the house to begin with. Instead of listening, he just blows me off and asks me if I can set up his Chromecast, that was mine to begin with and he took with him, when he gets the internet installed. I told him no, and begged him not to install internet, but he didn't listen. 2 days later, it's my birthday. Ed calls me sometime in the afternoon, and I thought he was just going to wish me a happy birthday. But, instead, the conversation goes like this. Ed, hi Davis KD94, I got done getting internet installed, and even got the 1 TB package, the most expensive one. Can you come down and set up my Chromecast for me? Me, Dad, I begged you not to get that internet. Why are you so irresponsible with your money? You're not supposed to be living there. Aunt told you that you had to leave, and here you are getting internet installed at a house that's going to foreclosure. Why don't you listen to anybody? Ed, just shut up and install my Chrome click. I hung up on him. I was fuming and told my mom all about it. She was just as mad as I was, not just about the internet and the Chromecast, but also he forgot his son's birthday, again. The only thing that was keeping me sane was that my longtime girlfriend was coming to visit for the weekend. That girl is easily the best thing to happen to me, so Ed is lucky that she was keeping me calm. Later that day, around 6 p.m., I get another call from him, but I ignore it. Then, about 30 minutes later, my brother comes up to me and asks me to come down. I figured my mom just needed help with something and came down. There waiting for me was Ed. Being Mr. Moneybags, he offers me $100, and says, "Ed, happy birthday, Davis KD 94, so can you come down and help me set up my Chromecast?" Me, what? I already told you no. Do you really think you can just buy me out like this? Ed, the money is for your birthday, I just want you to do this for me. Me, well, the answer is still no, and I don't want your money either. Ed, just take it. And then he left. The money was sitting on the table, so I just took it and gave half of it to my mom, who I figured could use $50 to get herself something nice. Unfortunately, there's not much of a happy ending to this story. It's been about a year since he moved back, the basement never got done because he blew all the money on stupid crap, and my mom can't afford a divorce. He's constantly doing irresponsible stuff, like buying a brand new car when he can't even afford his own bills. How he got that loan with his credit that low, I'll never know. I'm still in school, but I promised her that as soon as I graduate and get a job in my field, I'm studying computer security, my brother and I will get a house and get her and my autistic brother out of there. It's what's keeping me going. Thank you for listening, my children. Please leave a like and subscribe and ring my bell sack to stay updated with my videos as they come out. Love you, bye.